Hello everyone, how's it going today? Thought I'd get back to doing a part 5 on this particular alien base. I'm kind of seeing how it might look when it's done. It's starting to get a little bit going on it. And I am happy to say too, the more I look at the solar panels, the color tone on the solar panels does match this pretty good. So I was kind of worried about adding a bunch of solar panels originally, thinking it was going to kind of detract from the alien look. But I think they don't look too bad. Also, in the comments, there was something about force fields versus hangar doors, and yeah, it's totally true that force fields are not a wall at all. They hold out, the environmental air, but you could shoot right through them. You could have creatures walk right up into your base. Um, yeah, I'm gonna stick with the hangar doors. It makes a lot more sense. No one wants random things walking into your house either, so don't want to do that. A couple things before I get going on this again is I kind of started something new. This is I know it looks a little like a HV, but it's actually a SV and like a littler ship. Um, a steel hauled. It's got basically less guns. I'm planning on making this one a player unlock level 10. I am debating though on the cockpit. I've put in this newer cockpit I noticed, and I kind of like it. And I try to work around how it's set up with the glass, and it makes a pretty cool view. But as in function, and this is a question I would like to ask everybody too. I've always been struggling back and forth between should I have an enclosed cockpit or should I have a traditional type one-piece cockpit. And I mean, what do most people prefer is the big question. I don't know exactly. I kind of go back and forth and randomly, choose which ones are going to have what. Now, when I played the game back in the day, I would leap out of the vehicle often. I would be flying by, I would see some resources or something. I would jump out, I'd pick some flowers, I would jump back in, and having these kind of cockpits was really easy for that, jumping in and out. But now I've seen that kind of gameplay has twisted a lot where you can use your drone to do most of that stuff. So what I've been seeing on other videos like Spans or Excalibur or whatnot um, is they'll have a drone hatch, and I put that on a lot of the newer ships. And then you kind of sometimes have to leap up a little bit, and you hit what is it, F5 I believe to launch your drone, and then you do your outside work with the drone within range, and you stay nice and safe inside your vehicle. Very good for hostile environments. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And last but not least, too, when I was trying to come up with a theme for the aliens, I ultimately went with this purple tone for two reasons. Now, when I was first doing it, I was first thinking green, and that's what this one is. And I tried like a burnt orange one, and I tried a lot of different colors. And for two reasons, I ended up going with the purple. And one of those was on this first ship, of course, the first prototype of all this alien stuff, is the natural color on the warp core was purple, and I thought that meshing in with the rest of the ship looked really good. So I liked the purple there, but also with the tones and colors that I used, what I like about the purple is that in a lot of light schemes, it looks black. I mean, it's not black, but it's got that dark tone to it, and it just made it look meaner, I thought. And yeah, I never thought I was going to make anything purple. I mean, it's not usually my color of choice to go with, but in this case, I thought it looked the best. And then I also have a little bit of a relation to like older games. Um, like World of War, well, not even World of Warcraft, but like Warcraft 3, it had the necromancer race or whatnot, and they tend to go for the purple tones like this too. Same thing with like Diablo, things like that. So I kind of picked up on that too, and I just thought it was the best look of the different color schemes I tried. And yeah, I mean, I spent probably 2 hours trying to figure out a good color because I knew I wanted to get it right, because I wanted to build more in the series. All right, I will shut up now and get to business here. Let me just make the lighting a little bit better here. Now today, rather than like jumping all over the base, what I wanted to do is focus on one particular area, and that's this top section, and get this kind of wrapped up. So then the rest of the base was kind of fill in on the sides and add some gun mounts and whatnot. But this part's important, and I want this to achieve the look kind of as a basis for everything else that happens on this creation. So what I'm going to do right now is, I'll turn on symmetry in a second, probably should have done that already, is I want to come up with a design across this portion of the base to maybe raise it up a little bit more, but also try to get in this look here of kind of I don't know, rib cage, not really, but something like that. And I think this is a great place to do something like that. And also I was thinking about rounding, I don't know if I can too much. Well, basically rounding these sides out a little bit more. So here, let's get, oh geez, can I do symmetry? I think I can on this part. I just got to watch it. There's so much of this base that's not symmetric. If you set it in the wrong place, you're going to really screw yourself up. But I think this part is symmetrical enough. Alright, so first thing is I kind of wanted to round off this side, then I want to build up this, add in a rib cage, maybe a little something up top here, and get a artillery mount position over here. Also, another question as I'm just kind of going along here, doing block conversions, I'm not sure how many of you've done that before. There's info online. I have kind of a cheat sheet I made over time to tell me different things like that too, like what the materials are. But I am really having a hard time trying to figure out what carbon substrate is when you're doing block conversions. I don't see it listed anywhere, and I did some Google searching on it, and I haven't found an answer. So the reason why I was interested is I got that mech over there, and I wanted to convert it from steel, I believe, or hardened steel to carbon substrate, and I literally can't find what carbon substrate is according to the actual material names that you would type in the command with. So it's been a little troubling. So I didn't forget about the mech, I just haven't really done anything with it. Basically, I wanted to get it converted, do a quick job on finishing off the interior, and then at least get it to friends only. I might eventually make it public, but I'm not sure on that one yet. It would be the first thing that I ever released to the public that was a prop, essentially. And I don't know if I should start doing that because, I don't know, could be confusing, maybe not, I don't know. Probably just overthinking it. Alright, so on this, just trying to think on how it would work to get some neat lines in here. Just got to start somewhere though. Okay. So let me just see how this works out. It started kind of tight like that and went down. And love having these new little blocks around like this kind of thing. It allows you to smooth off this stuff that I in the past would just have to leave jagged edges on. Okay, so that's similar to the design layout that was there before, or well, on the other creations. On these in-between areas, I was actually thinking of some kind of piping. Not a lot of room though. I'd love to like run like something like this, but it's kind of big and bulky too. Could investigate this block. I wonder how expensive this thing is, or if it changed at all now. Let me just run an experiment on that. This particular half-round block was just terribly, terribly expensive. Okay, so we're at size class 0.96. And if I add, this will add essentially 2 of these because of the symmetry. I have 0.98. Let me just make sure that 1. Yeah, these things are terribly expensive yet. I just can't understand why either. I would think they would have less polygons than the cylinder block of the same size, this one here. But these are much, much cheaper. Oh well, I don't think it really matters anyway on this build. So I probably ought to just use the one block. If it comes to a push and shove thing, I can always replace it later. Man. I'm going to try this. It's a little bit different, but let's see how it comes out. And then what to do on the edges here. Yeah, that's a good amount of funkiness up there. As in the taller part, yeah, I don't know. Guess it really doesn't need to be taller here. I don't really want to cover those up either. Just kind of thinking about some kind of lip here of some origin. But I wanted to try to keep these, which would have lights on them. In fact, I screwed up again and did it with the other material. And another question that was brought up before I forget too was on the materials. Since you can't repair a base, the use of carbon substrate on like exterior pieces like this, should I do that or not? I guess it all depends on how much you want to spend on the base, really. I can't use concrete and do those textures, so I have to use steel, hardened steel, or combat steel for it, or carbon substrate. Now, I went with carbon substrate because these areas aren't protecting anything, but the point is, when drones come in and start shooting your base up and you can't repair it, you could lose a lot of the little fluff pieces that like that easily. So that's a decision I got to make. Is it worthwhile to use a better material for those, even though they're not really protecting your interior space? It would increase the cost, but you'd probably lose less parts from attacks. I guess, yeah, if anybody's got an opinion on that too, that's just something I was thinking about that I think probably should be addressed before I do too much more of it. Now, I can always do a mass material switch if I knew what carbon substrate was, so I could just do a console command and replace them all. No hassles, and carbon substrate texture the same as the other materials I would move it to anyway. So it's not a big deal right now. It's not like it's going to affect anything, but I just wanted to think about that a little bit. But at least in this case, a lot of times I've had landing pads on the top. I actually am not going to have a landing pad up here, which is cool, so I don't have to worry about making a entry point for it or anything like that. But what I am trying to do is round this down to go with the same semi-curvy theme going on. I got plenty of room for an artillery, especially if it was centered about there. I got another block over here I could work with. Yeah, that'll work out. Tell you what, for now I do have to replace these again with, I'm going to just use carbon substrate for the time being, but keep in mind if more people would like to have it better material, that is completely changeable. Only affects cost a little bit, and it won't be that much either. Alright, so this part is just too squarish up there. Let me see what's in the transition area. Huh. That might be a good option. Kind of get a little bit of curve in there, but without covering up too much of the lights below it. I found too, if you do have symmetry on, a lot of times rather than like rotating parts, I just go from one side of the symmetry to the other. And now that it's working good and not screwing up the blocks, it's kind of a bit of a time saver. That's kind of in there. Let's add another little funky thing here just to add in a little bit of detail. I've been doing this more and more with newer ships, especially now that there's just so many blocks available and things like that. But like I've got Not that this needs more right here, but it doesn't hurt it if it has a little extra something. And so I'm making like a little strip over here. Very simple, but it's just, you know, more to look at. Okay. So, plotting of the artillery. Let's say I'm just going to throw down a texture here for now, and that is the center of the artillery, so it's going to go out 2 in each direction, and that should fit nicely. It'll kind of lay over these though, but at the front of this I could kind of cover that up a little bit, and it won't affect the artillery. Maybe get a little bit more detail over here. And then let's do the same thing and make another little lip here. Oops, doing that right? Nope. There we go. Alright, so that kind of helps achieve a curve there, and yeah, okay. I'm thinking that's coming along all right. So, and when I do these things too, especially when I'm really trying to get into usually the second part of a build where I'm trying to take what I've got and home in the detail, I kind of look at every little area. You know, like I got this area here. Is there anything more I could add to this before I move on? Blocks or some kind of detail or decoration of some kind. And actually, I want to do an experiment here too. Again, so many new blocks, things that couldn't do before you can now do. So what I'm thinking about doing, oh, never mind. I was going to try to curve that in over here, but that's right, I used the half blocks already for that. So I don't know how that would work out. I got to find out though. Just to see what happens. I do this a lot too, trial and error things, just trying to figure out what looks best, what works best. And if I come up with some idea that may or may not work, I usually like to take the time to try it at least. Because you never know. Sometimes some things that you wouldn't think would work very good, all of a sudden it's like, hey, that looks really cool. Well, I actually think I liked it better the way it was. But, you know, it's worth trying. It really is. If you didn't try, you wouldn't know. Alright. So now, one other thing that kind of came into being here, if I make accommodations for it at least, is there could be a turret here too. Almost enough room. I guess my piping is throwing that off a little bit. If the turret was centered here, I couldn't have these come out quite that far, but maybe they could be altered to do something a little different. pipes for now too, I'm just going to run carbon substrate. Yeah, well, guess I didn't run carbon substrate on that part. That's all right. I'll do it on, nah, don't think I need to on these. Huh. Could kind of make this all work together here and curve the one pipe into the other. See what it looks like. Oops. I think I can handle that. And yeah, it gives us a spot here. Just see how it actually fits in the real world here. Grab some placeholders of that and artillery. Now, as in retractable turrets, I normally don't use them, and it's not because I don't think they're kind of cool and look nice and everything, but the reason is that a retractable turret takes up a 3x3 block area on the base more than these turrets do. And I guess the way I see it is if you're cutting into the ceiling of your base with like a whole row of blocks, it's weaker. Although the turrets, when retracted, have a little more hit points than these do, you're losing like at least a nine block area below it that you have to cut away or reinforce with like a second row below it. So I actually find it less useful and weaker to use retractable turrets. So I don't normally use them unless I'm really trying to go for a particular look or style that, it would look nice if they were hidden. Alright, so yeah, that stuff fits pretty good. I don't like how this the turret edge is kind of kicking over here. It's minor though. I could deal with that the way it is. Okay. So now the next thing is I want to start getting this textured. And I already know, man, I think I'm going to grab another material here too. I got to go with steel on this because this might be protecting internal areas. Okay, guess we'll throw in some hardened steel into the mix here. And it all comes down to the textures available between concrete and steel. And basically I'm thinking I want lights on this row here, and I know there's no textures in the concrete lineup that will work with that. I'll try to get by with most of the other stuff the way it is, unless it just does not seem to want to work out. Switching materials often when you're building too, it does increase the complexity of it. It is easier just to be like, hey, I'm going to build this out of combat steel, and it's all going to be combat steel on the exterior at least, but that's easier. But I typically do not like the texturing on the concrete near as much as the texturing available for the other materials, like all your steel-based stuff. Alright, so now, I guess we'll start with texturing this. I want to find a texture that works alright to make some fairly noticeable lights, which will be, of course, purple again. So a lot of this is going to have to be probably that carpet texture. I think I'm just going to save myself some time, and I hope this works right. Let me save it first in case. I had an issue, and I don't know if it's a bug or just something that happened to come up, is when I replaced a full texture, it got more than the texture it should have and kind of screwed up me working on something else before. So now I have a little bit of mistrust in using this. But that certainly will save a lot of time if I do this. Okay. So let's get into like some base coloring here. I think we determined it was this new shade here, which was designed to blend well with the metal shade, or somewhat well. Okay, yeah, that's true. Technically, I probably could mass fill this too, with this color, but I don't want to quite yet. Alright. And the pursuit to find some other texture that could work well with this. And right now I'm kind of thinking this one's not too shabby at all. Now, I haven't used any of this texture or this texture with these builds either. I'm trying to avoid like metal, human metal looking things is the main reason. But then, you know, I could do that. You don't really see the screws and bolts because the other texture, the other block covers that up. Yeah, that works out. And then, of course, on those angled pieces, do the same thing. I'm also worried about though, and just tell you what, these might be protecting internal areas. I'm going to replace the outer block here with hardened steel. again for texturing purposes. And also the end pipes. Oh man, I ought to do all these then. Okay, now this part, again, at least for the time being, I'm going to keep it carbon substrate for cost purposes because it's not protecting internal areas, but it could change. And the pipes like that. Alright, so now this is going to give me some better texture options. So now I can use this light block here on these two edges and use the common alien themed pipe material. And then I think the concrete does allow this texture, which is also used the pipes. Alright. So let's do some coloring here. Let's just fill in the whole blocks for now. White concrete. Let's see, the pipe colors I've been using are this here, almost a little bit on the blue tone side. But with some darker parts. Alright, let's try to get some other texture in here. Kind of works. And what about these front pieces? Don't know yet. I was curious about this like ceramic roofing texture too. I think that might be able to look alright in the right place. Don't think that place is necessarily up top here, but it's not too bad. And just so limited, I don't know what to use for these things. If I wanted to keep it concrete, no brainer in the steel range. That's just too much lights. That one's not so bad, I guess. Man, I just don't know what to texture this with. Guess I'll keep it like this and maybe try to find detail with something later. Now I could rotate. Actually, let's do that a minute. Actually, it's probably quicker than rotating a whole bunch of blocks. I will simply remove this block and make sure it's angled correctly this time. Which is very hard to tell with this texture though. Basically, I'm looking at the seam where the angled side meets the other side to try to see if that texture lines up. If it doesn't, that's the way I want it. So just to test, this surface should texture different than that surface now. So I could try something like do half and half of one kind of texture here. Now let's get the other ones in place. And then just maybe keep this solid there. Place it all real quick here to save a little time. Shade. Okay. You know, something I did on the other items too is I would kind of do not just that on the sides of these thin blocks, but another texture, which I'm going to have to use substrate to get to. And in combination with a slightly different color, I thought it looked kind of neat. I did use just a wee bit of this regular metal texture on these two, once in a while, just to get kind of a seam line in places. Okay, so I got that, and oops. You know, there are times that I wish that all the different materials could use all the different textures, but then other times I'm like, I don't know, it is kind of neat how it is, you know, you gotta kind of plan that out. But yeah. Okay, and then on the base of these things, what I've been doing, because you don't see it, you only see the corners, I've been putting in this vent. And these, oh, actually you're not going to see it over here anyway. Never mind. Really do try to make sure I like get everything though. Sometimes you gotta hop inside and travel through blocks to see the other parts. I want to do something with the texture of this main strip that goes over yet too. So what I was doing is taking these grates and making them more of the blue-gray color, and then taking this particular things and kind of making those a little bit darker. Now one thing we can definitely do is start to like tone in the color going towards the edges here. Yeah, definitely want to do that. So I'll start with my darkest shade, and there's 4 total, these 3 and that. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, this is concrete. Those don't apply. I'll do that later. I'm gonna have to come up with more colors. Alright. What to do here? You know, it doesn't look half bad. I mean, if you look up closely, it's kind of screwy, but kind of looks like it could fit. I'm gonna try to use that. I gotta use something. Let's just get rid of the gun here a minute. Okay, and then you guys can be... Okay. Oh, heck with it. I guess there still are some symmetry problems. Like, I would assume that this part over here would have been textured and colored the way it was set. block replacements. And they're going inside here, so hardened steel. Alright, so it's basically there, kind of plain yet, not jazzed up yet. Alright. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do something with that area there too. So, to take this a step further, what could be done to jazz it up? It's limited on textures and colors. I guess let me start digging into this color thing a minute here. And maybe I won't do a full, but I'm going to take this color and we're going to make darker versions of it. See if I can get a little bit of a fade going. And I'll just go with 3, I guess. Okay, so this would be the darkish tone. And let's do it to the whole block. Okay, and then the next lighter tone. And then it goes into the record one. Does that make any difference at all? Hardly noticeable. It needs more texture contrast in this area though. It really does. So, okay. That's gonna suck a little bit, but I'm gonna get rid of these blocks here. And then replace them also with hardened steel. thinking about doing something a little unique here. Okay, so well, we know we got more blocks below this. Maybe have something that actually comes up from the top yet. Hypothetically, it could be another turret mount position or a couple. Yeah, might be a bad idea. Add a little more height to it. Thinking maybe a couple turrets that maybe come out from this pillar. Alright. Then, I did use this vent quite a bit in the other one. Alright, so now, mount position for the artillery. Been throwing all my other mounting things out the window, the way I always did it before with the lines and stuff around it. But I had to come up with a new style for putting these HVs on. And I ended up doing kind of a black with just that texture, and in the center, let me blow away one of these. I put one of those in, which kind of illuminates at night a little bit. So let's do that. Keep it all the same. And actually, this whole deck should be dark, I think. Oh, you know what? We're dealing with concrete, so it's a different shade again. All right. Man, I'm gonna run out of places to put colors. How about right above it? Really dark. Speaking of that, how about just a dark strip all the way along here? Not a fan of them white lines over here either, but at least they don't stick out too much. All right, so artillery back in, and I was coloring these with my dark too. So like my normal creations, I usually keep the weapons gray, their default gray, but in this set, I've been coloring them dark. Well, there's a chunk of the base. Oh, you know what? Darn it. I forgot to add in the decals. And just to mix it up, I decided to use these instead of the other things I was doing. And what did I do in the center? Oh yeah, asterisk. That's something I really wish they would expand on and give you some more options with is decals. Of course, you know, the first couple pages, you know, with the letters and numbers and some of these are very useful. But page 3, it's just I use like a couple, but I really wanted decals to represent things, you know, like, and I'm trying to just make up stuff as I go along, but I don't know. I just wish there was a lot more options. Page 4, I mean, the lines are great. You could do an awful lot more with lines. You could have angled lines. You could have um, different lines, thinner lines, big half thickness. And I tell you what would be the holy grail, though, if you could color your decals how you would like. That would be amazing. Do a whole lot more with decals then, rather than being always white. All right. Well, I don't even know how much time has gone by. When I get into doing these things, it's usually, I mean, 2, 3, 4 hour session at a time until my eyes bug out. I can't take it anymore. Um, but it is fun sometimes just working on a part. Like I just wanted to get one part kind of done up. You know, I guess like what these are. But you really start to get an idea of what this would look like when it's all textured up and done at this point. And then of course, once I get it to this phase too, what I always do now is I go through and I will do like another level of detail or try. I will look at it again, add decals, change colors, change textures, add more textures, add some more blocks sometimes, to give it like another coat of detail over the top of what's already there. And then it basically gets to the look that I'm getting on these other ones. It's not quite there yet. It's a little plain yet, and that's and as I go with these builds, I'll hopefully keep on discovering new tricks that I can do, and might even like touch up some of these other ones over here with new tricks before they get released. I think I'll stop the video today at that. I achieved these not very big but small area that I wanted to get done and out of the way. Sort of missing a couple little things here, but yeah. Hope you like it, and you all have a good day. I'll be back Monday working on probably this again. I might try to go through and get a little bit more of the body worked out, but I'm going to keep on running more tutorials on this and try to focus in on individual, you know, parts. And in mentally speaking, that sounds strange. I like to focus on a particular part sometimes of a creation as its own separate project. Like this is a piece, you know, I don't mind just spending gobs of time just trying to like work this piece and work it until I'm really happy with it, before like looking at something else and then divide up everything else. Like this is like another like texturing up this part and getting this part final. This is like another project right here, and there's another project over here getting this part done. And I just kind of break it apart like that, where it's like, okay, there's, rather than one colossal project that, oh my God, it's going to take forever, I separate it mentally up into little parts that I can just take my time and detail, and like that's the only thing I'm focused on and the only thing I care about at the time. It just makes it easier. I ran into builder's fatigue before with big creations. Sentinel Station to be the #1 on that, where I got really burned out and I kind of lost the will like 2/3 of the way through to work on it anymore, because it was just like, God, I don't feel like working on that anymore. And I forced myself through it, but I found that I was being awfully quick with areas. You know, it had so much interior space to look at that I was just like, okay, let's just bang up this room, try to get it done in 10 minutes and move on. And that's not the right way to do things. It's going to take a lot of time regardless. So yeah, if you can just, if you get excited about it and keep that energy flow and make something look really neat, and it's like, yeah, I really like that part, I want to move on to this other part and try to make this new part look as good as my other part. It helps. It really helps. It makes these projects not seem so cumbersome, I guess. Okay, well, have a good day, and hope you enjoyed this video. If you got any suggestions, comments, ideas, of course, always throw them down there. I do look at them, and I do appreciate them too. And if anybody has an answer on what the actual material name to the engine is for converting materials dealing with carbon substrate, I would really like to know the answer to that, because I'm going to need to use that soon, and Google failed me. All right. Have a good one. See ya.